Hello and welcome to this week's edition of Political Smackdown. I'm Andy Deb and I'm your host this week. We have our usual crew. Roger Harris is in for Betsy this week. Roger, you are part of our regular crew. Now, we just might as well get a fifth seat.
It's a pleasure to be here.
It's good always to have you. And then, of course, Mike and Wes are with us. All right, let's get going, folks. At the last county commissioners meeting, it was brought up that the county was very late for their annual audit. The Local Government Commission, which Mike was a part of for a number of years, frowns on this, and it could possibly impact our credit rating. What is going on with this lateness of this important report? I mean, Mike, to me, this is just something that you just do every year, sort of like we do with our taxes. You file your taxes, and it looks like they would file their audit report, and this is so major. I mean, it really, in my opinion, it is, and it fell through the cracks.
Well, for all of my about 12 years of tenure as a member of the Local Government Commission, audit reports were due on October 31st. In 2025, it got moved to December 31st, so they gave them 2 more months. And then because of the federal government shutdown last year for 43 days, they gave them 43 more days, so they had until February the 12th, which came out in the meeting, to have filed it and been considered on time. The meeting was on, I believe, March 17th. So they were about 5 weeks late at that point. And it has since been filed, I have learned, and the Local Government Commission has it. It is late. I will say this, in those 12 years I served, late audits, Andy, were way too common. There were lots of causes. Most of them came from smaller cities, often without full-time staffs. Sometimes they came from even counties or cities due to changes in finance director, manager, or other issues. And generally speaking, as long as they got taken care of relatively quickly within a few weeks or months, it did not become a huge issue as long as it's an isolated incident that's not recurring. But we had some municipalities especially that were 2 and 3 years late, hadn't filed an audit.
We all just have to face the facts of it, Mike. There are some of these places that should not be incorporated as towns because they don't have the staff or the ability to get all this stuff done that a municipality is required to do.
Well, anyway, that's not true of any county. All the counties ought to get their junk done.
Well, they should, but we have had counties late. And usually it's where a finance director quits in the middle of an audit or about the time it starts, or a manager leaves about the time it starts. And if it's a 1-year thing, then they're not going to frown too bad on it, but it's not good.
No.
But at any rate, in Cleveland County's thing, it got really filed about 7 weeks technically late. It has been filed. The LG will note it. They will send their concerns to the county. Another big reason audits didn't get done is auditors couldn't do them because even counties that would be late had failed to reconcile their checking account for their general fund monthly.
You're kidding.
And you cannot balance until you know what you have. You've got to reconcile. That was a big problem, especially with smaller towns, but occasionally even with the county. So at any rate, I think this is a serious issue. It is not one that we need to be overly alarmed. Cleveland County's taking care of it. And as long as it's a blip, and they give reasons and take responsibility and see that it doesn't happen again. And I'm assured that is happening right now.
Roger, we've always, in Cleveland County, we have had whoever county commissioners were, they have always been very concerned about maintaining our pristine AAA bond rating.
Right.
That sometimes
we don't have a AAA. No county this small. We might have an A, little A, big A,
it was little A. Well, it's still AAA to me. If you got 3 A's, it's triple. Anyway,
had a good bond rating.
Yeah, it was a very good bond rating. But that's the thing of it. People were good custodians of the people's money and to take care of what needed to be done as far as the reporting of it. And that's why this bothers me so much, I think, because this is unusual for Cleveland County.
I agree, and it's not a partisan issue. Turning your homework in is not a partisan issue. I think, Andy, a quick civics lesson might be helpful to some of our listeners about what the Local Government Commission is. It was created just about 100 years ago. It's part of the State Treasurer's Office. The Local Government Commission, which is usually called LGC just because that's easier to say, serves as a watchdog for cities and counties and water boards and those kind of things to prevent financial failures. That's what their mission is. And local governments, for example, have to have permission to take out loans. Well, the way they do their work in Raleigh is they have to get annual audits to make sure that these things are being run correctly, because as Mike said, sometimes you got little tiny towns that don't have much of a staff, and you know, the board is made up of the local barber and the prettiest waitress at the restaurant, and you know, that's your board. So there has to be some monitoring of that. But I agree, the audits are something that just had to be done. On the school board, we had to do audits, and my church does audits. You know, things just had to be done, had to be turned in. And Mike mentioned the reconciliation. The auditor the other night, I don't recall his name, but he said that basically the county had gotten 2 warning tickets. And I forget what they're called, but they used to be called some sort of letter, but it's kind of a warning ticket. One was for being late, and the other had to do with reconciliation records, which I think means they weren't balancing their checkbook every month. And you know, that's something that my daddy taught me to do when I was 16 years old. You balance your checkbook every month, and it's disappointing that it didn't get done, but I hope the county has fixed it and it won't happen again.
One more thing before you
Yes,
go,
sir.
Wes, on the history of the local government commission. Actually, Omax Gardner had a lot to do with getting the local government commission established in the late 20s, at the time of the Depression. And the idea was not to have towns and counties going bankrupt in the future like they did at the.
That's
at the
because
Great
they did
Commission.
during the Depression. That's
Well,
right.
and they also shifted a lot of stuff from the locals to the state, like roads and that sort of thing, that took a lot of the burden off. Well, Wes, this is something that just, it's kind of inside baseball for a lot of folks, but this is one of the important checks and balances to look after the people's money.
Well, that's it. The audit's there to protect everyone. The taxpayer, as well as the finance department, the elected, it protects everybody. And it creates the transparent, here's what money came in and here's how it went out. Just like I think the balance in the checkbook analogies is exactly right. So this ensures the public trust. When the audits are done, they're done on time and they're clean. The reality, being late in a county like Cleveland, just the first thing, it can't happen. The second thing is, it can't happen. And I don't know any other way to say it.
But what we're not implying there's any skullduggery, but this
No,
was just something that needed to be
That's right.
done.
The
feel-
man said it was a clean report.
I feel certain it's a clean report and there are no problems, and I don't think we, the public, need to confuse the two.
No.
But they do need to be done in a timely manner. I think the one thing that surprised me, just looking at expressions, watching the meeting, it certainly appeared that this was news to the county commissioners. And this is something that it seems to me like if it was due in December, originally in October, extended to December, and then extended to February, I'm surprised the commissioners didn't know about it. You know, first rule of working around politics is never surprise your elected officials.
Absolutely.
And the expression certainly looked surprised. I don't know if they were or not. They certainly were frustrated. But I think this is going to be, one, the audit's in, it's been accepted, that part's been resolved. And I think the commissioners will take steps to ensure that we are not late in Cleveland County.
They'll
in
still
the
get a
future.
communication from the LGC, will point out that it was late and anything else they have concerns. You know what they're always concerned about in Shelby? I got the letter for 8 years. You transferred
Moving
too
money.
much money from gas and electric,
money, yeah.
especially gas.
Well, that's where your money was.
And I always wanted to write them back, and Dee Freeman always said, you need to let me write the letter, you just sign it.
But the audit's been accepted. It appears that it will be clean. So that issue's resolved, and I think Cleveland County financially is in good standing.
Let me mention one other thing just
Okay.
related that was in there. They went from 19 to 13% in change in fund balance. But it was because of the FEMA money not yet arriving from the Helene damage. You gotta remember, this year ended last June 30th.
Right.
And they will be when they get the FEMA reimbursement, they'll have about a 27% general fund balance, which is very healthy.
Oh, very healthy. Well, I think it's safe to bet Cleveland County will never be late again with this current crop of county commissioners. They're going to make sure of that. All right, let's move on to our second question. We're going to still stay with the county commissioners meeting. At this same meeting, during a public comment, a wife of an county employee made a very emotional statement concerning how bomb threats are handled in county buildings. Her husband works in the basement of the county office when a bomb threat was called in to the Register of Deeds. Most of the floors, we are told, were notified, but the folks in the basement were not. Wes, after 9/11, don't you think this should be just a natural part of our life now, that everybody knows what to do when there's an emergency like this that needs evacuation?
You'd think so. I think again, this is another thing that's being investigated right now. So there's a lot we don't know, and a lot that can't be discussed until the investigation is done and we know the facts. From what I understand, 911 was called, and from what I understand, a bomb threat was not called in. A call was returned, and a frustrated individual made a threat that was thought to be a bomb threat. And I think from there, the reactions occurred.
So what you're saying is that somebody was disgruntled with the answer they got back from whatever office they called to.
Or that they had felt like they had been called too many times, or didn't understand that
Okay.
the number of calls. But actually, the call was not received. The call was made from the passport phone number a day after the original call came in, is what I'm told. Again, there'll be transcripts of these calls. We will find out. An investigation's being done. I'm sure things will be handled as they should, and I can assure you, just knowing the county commissioners as we all do, if there has been any confusion about how to handle this, that has already been resolved and will happen again. Thank goodness there was no bomb.
Oh, yes.
And it seems like these things come in waves. You know, this was right on the heels of Crest and Shelby threats, and then we get this one. It's a shame that these things happen.
It really is. Roger?
Yeah, I don't know why the IT department didn't get the notice if they didn't, but, you know, they need to correct that, and there's a lot we don't know, but I know our county commissioners are made up of good people, and I think a good investigation will come out. We had a lot of experience with this, unfortunately, with schools, with bomb threats. That seems to happen a lot, but I know every school, and I assume the county does as well, every school has to have a bomb threat response plan. You know, how do you get the threats? Because they come in different ways. Sometimes it's an email, sometimes it's on social media, sometimes it's a handwritten note or something written on a mirror or a phone call that comes in. And each one of those are handled a little bit differently. When a call comes in, employees are trained at the schools of how to respond to those things. They ask what kind of bomb it is and where it's located. And interestingly, sometimes you can ask the bomber what your name is, and they will give you their name if they're not trying to get away. But it's a very serious matter and has to be handled appropriately. You know, you mentioned the Crest. I think that's called a swatting hoax that disrupted everything that happened in the school. And by the end of the day, I think there were very few students there. So you know, these things happen occasionally. There's a difference. I know we don't want to get too far up in the weeds, but in the school system, there's a difference between a bomb threat and a bomb incident. Did you actually find a package, and how teachers respond as you go out? But the bottom line is you got to keep everybody safe, whether they're students or employees in the building, and that's a question that merits investigation here.
Michael?
I don't have a lot to add to what these guys have said, but I am sure the county is reassessing the whole situation. Investigations being done to make sure that it doesn't happen again. And as a matter of policy, the board does set policy on this type of thing. The manager and his department heads then have to execute that plan. And I'm sure if it needs some revision, they'll do it. But I think I want to withhold any major judgment till we see the results of the investigation.
Yes, absolutely.
Well, we don't want to stand and judge of things. We don't know all the information, but I feel very confident that our county commissioners now have seen a problem and they will address it quickly. We'll be right back with the second half of Political Smackdown.
Want to stay connected to everything happening at Cleveland Community College? C19's monthly show, In the Loop, brings you the stories, updates, and the highlights that matter most right from campus. From program spotlights and upcoming events to alumni interviews and college updates, In the Loop keeps you informed and engaged. Catch home game schedules for all CCC athletics, plus fun and meaningful conversations with the Yeti along the way. Whether you're a student, employee, alumni, or supporter of CCC, this is your inside look at life on campus. Tune in monthly on C19 and stay in the loop with Cleveland Community College.
Washington Outreach Ministries is one of the largest emergency food pantry in Cleveland County. We feed about 15,000 people a month. We have bi-weekly distribution every other Friday, and we serve them with all type of product, not just food product, but all type of necessities. Anything that they need, we have here and we can supply it. Food is available every day, but we offer bi-weekly distribution so the mass of Cleveland County can come through and enjoy some of the food products that we have here.
Welcome back to Political Smackdown. All right, let's move on to our next question. The race between Senator Phil Berger, longtime President Pro Tem of the Senate, and Sheriff Dan Page is finally over, with Berger conceding this week. Page won by 23 votes, and recounts did not change it. With Berger gone, what is going to happen in this political vacuum? Roger, Phil was there for my last term, so that's how long he's been there. Been there a long time. But I mean, the history of this knows a political vacuum abhors having a vacuum. Something's got to come into it. So what do you think?
I'll share this. I was in a meeting Tuesday with about 50 retired educators when somebody said that Berger had conceded. And y'all, it was like a basketball game where the last second shot went in. All these retired teachers jumped up and cheered when they heard that. There were people that came in walkers that suddenly got the power to stand again when they came up.
That just means a bunch of Democrats.
Well, maybe so, maybe so. Or a bunch of retired teachers that are tired of making less money each year than they did the year before. But anyway, Berger's, I don't know who his replacement is going to be. What's that big boy's name up at Mitchell County?
Ralph
Heiss. Ralph Heiss. I think he's probably a leading candidate, Michael Lee from New Hanover. But when you look at these kind of political earthquakes, this guy spent, some folks are saying as much as $10 million on a local Senate race and then loses. It had to be more than just the casino. He had lost touch. Sure. We see it a little bit locally with Kelly Hastings. I was surprised that he went out after as many years and as good a reputation as he had. But every once in a while, the earth moves, and there's going to be some big changes. I do wonder how much Page is going to be welcomed by his fellow Republicans when he gets to the state Senate. Berger helped out an awful lot of state senators, and now their best buddy's been chased out, and I don't know how Page is going to be received by his colleagues.
Well, Mike, it's just a strange thing. Right in the middle of a midterm election, I would say the most powerful person in Raleigh just got his hat handed to him and some walking papers for 23 votes. 23 votes.
Roger, I believe if he'd have spent $1 more million, he'd have got at least 24 more votes.
Maybe so.
He probably said the same thing, Mike.
Well, it is a major upheaval in the North Carolina Senate and in North Carolina politics.
Yes,
There's no doubt about that. There is some thought that Page will get the cold shoulder from a lot of the people because they're very loyal in the Senate to Berger. The Republican caucus has been. And if they weren't, the majority of them could have changed it. But they never did. So we're in uncharted territory. Bass Knight left on his own. When Liston Ramsey got beat by Mav Reddick with 20 renegade Democrats and the Republicans, he stayed in the House for several more terms.
He was there when I was there.
Yeah, but this is the first time we've seen a major leader like this in a party get beat in his own district. You know, I'm still wondering what are those people, and you sort of mentioned it, what are those people in Rockingham County thinking, trading the most powerful man for one who will have no power?
All I can say is they're probably gonna yank the pavement off the roads this year. I got a pretty good idea. Berger is not gonna be happy.
The short session will tell something. Will Berger give a little with the House, or will he just stand even firmer now? Who knows? And a lot will depend on what his caucus wants to do, given the fact that this is his last 6 months.
Yep.
Wes, now you as a member of the House of Lords, you know how that works over there.
And I've seen Senator Berger's leadership firsthand, and it was truly that. Mike, I think you hit the nail on the head. I think it's going to come down to the caucus and what they want to do. I think we're likely to see some movement that we might not have seen otherwise on some legislation. Mr. Harris, talking about the teachers being so excited, I guess you forgot what it was like before Senator Berger was there, when the Democrats in charge were laying off state employees. Teachers were being furloughed. We had the 5th highest unemployment rate in the nation, the highest taxes in the Southeast. We were billions of dollars in debt to the federal government and no rainy day fund. And Senator Berger, of course not by himself, but under his leadership, reformed the tax code, dramatically lowered taxes, cut regulations, and now North Carolina's soared to the top in the country as a place to live, a place to be, a place to do business. This was an earthquake, and I think North Carolina is going to pay a price for it. But Andy, to answer your question, Michael Lee has publicly said he's pursuing it. I've heard Todd Johnson from Union County. Brent Jackson would have to be on a short list because of his tenure, and he's well respected. And of course, Ralph Heiss, as you mentioned, would be one. And there may be somebody come out of the woodwork we've not heard about, but it'll sort itself out by next year when that vote's taken.
On the issue I see from Michael Lee, and I like him a lot, he's a good senator. But he's from New Hanover County. His district's in New Hanover County, which is a purple county.
Yep.
And he's been able to win every time. And they took a little bit of Wilmington out to make it a little more Republican, but I wonder if anybody besides Michael Lee can win that seat.
Well, what it boils down to, the macro of this, follow the Benjamins.
Yep.
Because that is what it's all about. If the person that can raise the most money in the Senate Republicans caucus will be named Mr. Pro Tem.
Which
And that's
puts
just
young
how it
Dave
goes.
Craven in a pretty good position.
It does. I mean, he's raised, what, $1 million or something like that?
Every bit of it, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's just something, I've always said, you follow the Benjamins and you'll see who's got the power.
He's just awfully young and awfully new.
Yes, he is.
But
All right.
Ralph Heiss, I think, is one of the smartest senators down there.
No
That's
question.
that's a bright man.
He is.
He may know how to push some buttons.
All right, last question. Let's real quick here. Got to talk about March Madness a little bit. It's in the full swing. This weekend. They're getting down to the final Elite Eight. There were some North Carolina teams I thought were doing very well, and some that didn't. What do you think, Wes, real quickly? What's your thoughts?
Well, as a Clemson fan, I just wanted to mention March Madness starts on Saturday with the Clemson spring football game. Iowa knocked off Clemson, and they're there. They're certainly one of those teams to pay attention to, I think. That's about all I have to say about basketball.
Mike?
Well, the odds makers say Michigan and Arizona are the two most likely to win it all, but Duke is third, and Duke is the only North Carolina team left. I think they're the only team from the Carolinas, period, that are left in it.
I think so.
So there could be a Cinderella team. There sometimes is, but one of those three teams might do it. Now Duke went down some because they had such a hard time beating the 16 seed that was in their first game.
Seton Hall, wasn't it?
But to mention the women's NCAA, I can make a safe prediction probably. The odds are at least 9 out of 10, if not higher, that the University of Connecticut will win its umpteenth championship.
Well, I
in
think
women's basketball.
the University of South Carolina will have something to say about
Oh, they're gone.
that. It's just really something about something.
They are a team that if they played their best and UConn didn't, they could be. But if both teams played the same, UConn would beat South Carolina.
All right, Roger.
I don't see any Cinderella teams this year, and the way things have changed, I'm not sure we're going to see any Cinderella teams in the future. But the biggest shock for me was VCU defeating the Tar Heels. Tar Heels up by 19, and then the wheels came off and went to overtime and lost it. And
I went to bed before, I thought it was over and done.
Oh yeah, well, Coach Davis did too, but
He is over and done.
yeah, he is over and done now. So
Well,
things change.
Well, the one I was really watching was High Point University. They have gotten into the NCAA some, but they got their first win this
Beat
year,
Wisconsin,
guys.
yep.
Yeah,
Beat
and
Wisconsin.
they got whacked in the second round, but they broke the glass ceiling
That's
anyway.
right. First win in school history.
That's it. All right, folks, let's go to lightning round. Wes, what you got?
Well, this week, H.R. 390 was introduced by Pennsylvania State Representative Carol Hill Evans, which recognized March as Women's History Month in Pennsylvania. Representative Hill Evans wrote her presentation in the bill that it celebrates the extraordinary accomplishments of women, which too often go unacknowledged. Well, Representative Aaron Bernstein offered an amendment, Mike, yes, to define what a woman actually is. After a lengthy pause and no vote, the Speaker simply announced, "This resolution is temporarily over."
Oh, man. Michael.
Well, in the Carolina Journal poll this week, third week in March, they've added a property tax question, and we've got the chart up there of how it turned out. In North Carolina, 38% say it's a major burden now to pay their property taxes, and 38% say, or almost 39, say it's at least a minor burden, making about 79% of North Carolinians, after all these high reevaluations and not very much reduction in rates in a lot of places, that property taxes are a burden. Andy, the committee that the House has and the Senate has may be at the right time to see some reform.
Very good. Roger.
Well, gentlemen, as you know, the only thing that scares Donald Trump more than a bad hair day is windmills. And last week, his administration said they were going to pay a French company $1 billion, that's B as in Bravo, $1 billion in taxpayer money to not build a windmill farm in the Atlantic Ocean. $1 billion not to build something. Well, Mr. President, I know you like to watch television. I just assume you're watching this program. Mr. President, if Mike and Wes and Andy and I agreed not to build a windmill, can we get a check too?
Amen, brother. I'm up for that. I promise I won't build one. Anyway, I'm going to get back on my soapbox about trash in this county. Folks, Sulphur Springs Road is awful. Last Friday, 6 guys picked it up all the way, the whole length of Sulphur Springs. By Monday, you could not tell they'd even been there. And folks, this ain't blowing off trucks. This is people throwing out, cups, cans, wrappers, that sort of thing. We have got to do better, folks. There's no sense in this. We've got God's creation that we're supposed to be stewards of, and I think we're dropping the ball in a major way. That's all we got for this week. Hope you'll come back next week for a new edition of Political Smackdown.
My name is Rich Garofolo. I'm Director of Library Services here at Cleveland Community College. You're watching C19, Cleveland County's hometown station.
As Cleveland County's premier event facility, LeGrand Center is the ideal location for any event. The LeGrand Center is located 45 minutes west of Charlotte, 45 minutes north of Spartanburg, and just a little over an hour east of Asheville. Whether you're a small business looking for a place for an off-site meeting or a bride looking for that special location for her wedding, LeGrand Center is the perfect place for you.